Welcome to the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast. Today's episode is Day in the Life of an Investor.
Welcome to the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast with Scott Whitwam, your blueprint to financial abundance. Settle in as we explore the mindset and methods for wealth building through real estate.
Are you ready to accelerate your real estate investing? If so, I invite you to Thrive 2025 Mini Real Estate and Conference. This is Scott Whitwam, real estate investor and coach. This one-day event is being held in Gilbert, Arizona on Saturday, May 17th. And I'll be joined by three top investors, entrepreneurs, and coaches, Brian and Gina Kandeski, along with Ryan Zollin. Brian has flipped thousands of homes and has agreed to share his proven success routine at this event. Gina is at the forefront of the rise of the co-living space and absolutely crushing it, and will show you how to leverage this real estate investment strategy. Ryan has mastered the art of turning real estate investors into agent investors. His proven system leverages the MLS to achieve your investing goals using an innovative step-by-step blueprint. And I'll share from my 30 years of experience of purchasing real estate investment properties with no money down and how to identify the missing opportunities to leverage other people's money. Lunch will be provided. Go to thrive2025rei.com or scan the QR code and plan to attend the Thrive 2025 REI Mini Conference. Welcome back. I'm Scott Whitwam, and today we'll be talking about Day in the Life of an Investor. I mean, it's really interesting. I know every investor's day is different, but for those of you who, and we hear this fairly often, ask, well, what should I be doing? What should I be focusing on? You need to learn, we need to, as investors, learn to focus on the highest priority items. So for instance, about 5:30, 6 o'clock this morning, text messages start coming in. But because I had other things that were more important, like focusing on my day, doing my morning prep, doing those kind of things, I didn't respond to any of them. I checked to make sure they weren't emergencies because I've got, several alarm systems in our various properties that we want to make sure that I don't have an alarm situation or any of those kind of things. But, I generally start my days pretty early, but I choose, as an investor, the things I'm going to focus on. And one of the neat things that one of my investor friends, he talks about, his routine and the things that he purposefully doesn't do before a certain time in the morning. And sometimes we got to learn as investors what we need to focus on. If you're doing real estate on the East Coast, you're going to start making phone calls at a certain time. If you're going to be working on the West Coast, you're going to end your calls at a certain time. So if you're in North Carolina and buying in California, you got a 3-hour time difference. And if you work just according to your schedule, you're going to be calling people maybe at 5 in the morning, and they're not going to be very happy, right? If you call at 8 in the morning your time, it's 5 in the morning in California. But if you want to catch people at dinner time, you can't call them at 5 o'clock your time or 6 o'clock your time because it's only mid-afternoon in California. So we've got to be aware of our time schedule and what we're doing, and we've got to manage that as investors. So today, the text messages are coming in early, and my architect's got to get hold of me in the morning. So about probably about 7:30 or 8 o'clock, I had a discussion with my architect. And because we've got a big project going on here in town, and we need to make have some architectural decisions made, and so he was an important call. So I called him back. He was the first call that I made this morning. He and I, so we have a discussion about, hey, we want to do this with the bedrooms. I need to have this because I got to finish. He had to have this drawing finished today so that he could submit for our building permit, because we just got approval on our lot split and such down there. So that was an important call. So I started off with that, and then I've got some friends who are out of town, and they said, hey, look, we've got this legal process going on. We need you to help us with an eviction, which nobody likes to do evictions. They can be messy. But this one had gone all the way to where we had to get the law enforcement involved. And so I meet the police at the property, start having discussions with the police officer and let them go do their thing. And then they come back and they ask me, well, how do we want to proceed? The people are pretty upset. And so, it's really funny. You got all this stuff going on. People are calling me while I'm trying to have conversations, with law enforcement, and they're asking me, "Hey, do you want to go up and and change out the locks right now?" And then the officer says, "I got backup on the way." I say, "Hey man, let's wait for the backup to get there." So this morning you got architecture. I've got people calling in about projects. We got several different projects starting this week. We got flips going on. We're trying to get through these things. I've got estimates that we promised to have out today. So as an investor, I'm trying to get these numbers out so we can make offers or make decisions on projects we're going to be running, whether it's here in the investing company or in the construction company. One of the things I don't understand is investors that tell me that they're not getting any traction. They're not, and when you start digging into your daily routine, we find out that, I made a few calls between 9 and 10, and then I went and grabbed a coffee at Starbucks, and then I ran over to Walmart, and I got back, and I got back into the office, and shot the breeze for a little bit, got back on the phone, made a couple more phone calls, submitted a couple bids or a couple contracts, trying to get offers in place, and I'm thinking, as investors, we really got to focus on the important things. We got to stay focused on the things we're doing. And so, in one of my typical days, I want to take my time to make sure that I'm spending, my time. I want to spend my time reading in the morning. I take time to read the Bible. I want to take time, in prayer meditation. I want to take time for me to make sure my day starts off good. I'm gonna make sure I have my protein shake, have my vitamins, and hit the ground running, and then take advantage of all the opportunities that are out there during the day. And because this is a really weird day, the schedule is all messed up. And Eric, who produces this podcast, we had to move the shooting of this podcast to a different time in order to do it, but we had to fit it in. Because we got travel plans and we got things that are going on, a couple busy weeks. If you're real estate investing, you're in the major metro markets. It's whether you're in Atlanta, whether you're in Dallas or Houston, whether you're here in the Phoenix area, you're in Vegas, some of the places in the Carolinas and stuff where things are starting to really pick up and stuff. You should be starting to experience some traction and get a little bit more ability, some more offer opportunities, some more opportunities to fill vacancies that we've had, and to turn over products. Our properties that hadn't been moving really quick in 2023 and 2024. Now when we're putting properties on the market, they're moving pretty quick, and we're getting what seems like more movement on the seller side. Not because interest rates have come way down, but in some of these major areas, we're starting to see consumer confidence. So as a real estate investor, I'm spending some extra time doing market research. And I think, that's really important, because when you're talking about, the type of things that we do as a real estate investor, we got to stay focused on the things that make us profitable. And again, sometimes we spend too much time finding ways not to do the things that are important. And, when we do that, what happens is we get to the end of our day and we go, this day wasn't that productive. It's not that it couldn't have been, but it wasn't that productive. And then you get to the end of the week and go, wow, I wasn't able to submit near as many offers as I should have. I didn't make near as many phone calls as I should have. I didn't meet with as many potential clients as I should have. I didn't knock on as many doors as I should have. I didn't approve as many ads as I should have. All of the things that investors need to do. Because as a real estate investor, I grew up on a farm. And one of the things that we learned is that in order to produce something of value, you had to invest something of value up front. So, for instance, this is spring, and my grandkids were real excited. Their dad went out and bought them a bunch of chicks, a bunch of baby chickens, and got them some. Mom went out then and got some baby ducks, and so they're really excited about these things. The only thing is those chickens and ducks aren't going to start laying eggs. They're not going to start growing to the size where they can produce meat or any of those kind of things overnight. You got to invest in them. Every day you've got to water them. Every day you got to feed them. When I was growing up on the farm, we were feeding rabbits, we were feeding ducks, we were feeding chickens, we were feeding sheep. And my uncles, they were cattle ranchers, and they were always out feeding cattle and into the cattle. And it just takes time for the things that we invest, the things that we do, to turn into the finished product that we can monetize. And sometimes as real estate investors, I think that we forget that every time we make a phone call, every time we knock on a door, every time we send out a postcard, every time we send out a yellow letter, every time we put a bandit sign in the ground, every time we go to a networking meeting, every time we meet with somebody, all of those times are opportunities to sow your seed to produce a real estate transaction. I was at an event last weekend, and we were hanging out towards the end of the event, and somebody walked up to me and handed me a little white piece of paper and said, "Hey, here's my address. Can you call me?" And, if I hadn't been there doing that thing, talking to people, they didn't know that I was a real estate investor, if they didn't know I was involved in that industry, then that connection wouldn't have come. And now all of a sudden, I've got a lead. I'm out having fun with my grandkids and my kids, and we were just having a great day. And now all of a sudden, I've got a lead because I was out taking care of business. And I try to stay focused that way. My wife and I like to go and have fun. And when I go and have fun, I do. That's what I focus on. I go and have fun with my wife, if I go in with my grandkids or whatever. But during the workday, I try to make sure that I put as much energy into the day as I can, because I get out of the day the benefit of the energy that I put into it. And I can tell you from years ago, from being a student, being coached, to becoming a real estate investor coach myself, the thing that I saw over and over by the people that were struggling in the coaching programs and the people that struggle with coaching programs today is they're not putting in the effort, not putting in the work. I had a guy come up to me. We had a booth at one of the conferences, and I was back at our booth, and they came up to me and they were talking to me and told me about the program they were in. And I actually know the coach whose program they're in. This guy is an incredible coach. If you follow his program and do what he teaches you to do, I don't know how you couldn't make money in his program. I've known his program for a long time. I know people that have been in his circles, and so that you can make something out of it. But I started to have a conversation with him, and he told me, "Well, I've invested $17,000 in this program, and I'm not having any success." And you start asking, "Well, are you doing this?" Well, he goes, "Well, I thought when I got into this program, I'd actually get some more personal, help on how to do this." And I'm like, "Just follow the steps." Because I know his program is, about finding lead opportunities and then following them up with a value-added offer and purchase properties. And I know it works because I know many people that have either been through the program. I've known him for a long time. If you just do it. This guy invested $17,000. He was highly educated. He was a CPA, and yet he wasn't generating any revenue from the coaching program he was in because he was not doing the things that he needed to do daily to be successful. And so when I talk about a day in the life of an investor, as me, I got to take care of the things that need to be done. So from talking to the architect, from going out and taking care of properties, from going out and meeting with clients, from submitting bids, from making the phone calls, When I look at my phone at the end of the day, the number of text messages and engagements I'm having with people, the number of phone calls, sometimes can be a very good gauge. If we put the effort in up front, we will have more opportunities to be able to have our enjoyable time. And if you're an investor and you've got kids and a family, I say that for you, I'd say really focus, because if you waste the time that you have during the day, then what'll happen is you'll end up having to take time away from your family, from your wife and from your kids. And then now all of a sudden you've got the family stress. And being married for 40 years and having kids that are I think my oldest is 38 now. I've got a little bit of experience now with grandkids. I've got a little bit of experience with this, that as an investor, we got to focus on the things that are important. And if you do that, I think that you'll find that you'll have some better success and get better foothold in this coming real estate explosion. And I really believe that we're headed for that. I've heard some of the news. I see what the mainstream media talks about. What's going on with the new president and the economy. But I'm smart enough to see, the bottom line, that the stock market is understanding that there's literally trillions of dollars committed to coming into the U.S. to build manufacturing and to bring jobs into this country. This is going to bode well for us as investors, and I want to be on the front end of it. And so I don't want to miss the opportunities that lay before us. And so I would say, let's be diligent, know that you can do what needs to be done. We're out of time today, but I want to thank you for joining me on this episode, Day in the Life of an Investor. I know sometimes our lives can be a little bit hectic, but you know what? For me, it's fun. I love the challenge and opportunity, and I love keeping myself accountable and staying on track. I want to invite you, though, to go back and listen to some of our other episodes. You can find these, and if you like what you hear, subscribe. We'd love to have you be part of our growing community, and feel free to leave us a review, ask us any questions. We love to hear from you. You can always find the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart Podcast, and YouTube, or wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts. Just before I go, I want to remind you of the upcoming Thrive 2025 REI Mini Conference that we're having on May 17th. As of this podcast, we still have a few spots available. Seating is limited, so I encourage you to go out and get your seat and get it reserved quickly. If you're in the Gilbert, Phoenix area, we'd love to have you come be a part. We've got incredible speakers. Brian and Gina Kandesky. Brian's going to talk about routine and being successful. I just talked to him the other day. He's got 25 flips going on. He's flipped over 7,000 homes. He's going to share his routine for success. Gina is absolutely crushing it in the co-living space. We have Pad Split, the co-living company that'll be with us. Ryan Zolin is going to be there to talk about how to invest using the MLS. He and his students are just tearing it up and making tons of deals and money using the MLS. And I'm going to be talking about my 30 years of experience talking about no money down. We'd love to have you come to the 2025 Thrive REI Mini Conference. This is Scott Whitwam. Be sure to join me on our next episode of the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast, where we're building wealth through real estate.
Are you ready to accelerate your real estate investing? If so, I invite you to Thrive 2025 Mini Real Estate and Conference. This is Scott Whitwam, real estate investor and coach. This one-day event is being held in Gilbert, Arizona on Saturday, May 17th. And I'll be joined by 3 top investors, entrepreneurs, and coaches, Brian and Gina Kandesky, along with Ryan Zolin. Brian has flipped thousands of homes and has agreed to share his proven success routine at this event. Gina is at the forefront of the rise of the co-living space and absolutely crushing it, and will show you how to leverage this real estate investment strategy. Ryan has mastered the art of turning real estate investors into agent investors. His proven system leverages the MLS to achieve your investing goals using an innovative step-by-step blueprint. And I'll share from my 30 years of experience of purchasing real estate investment properties with no money down, and how to identify the missing opportunities to leverage other people's money. Lunch will be provided. Go to thrive2025rei.com or scan the QR code in a plan to attend the Thrive 2025 REI Mini Conference.